Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are you? Welcome into 18 North Central. We appreciate you being here tonight. Thank you. I am your host, Marc Cox from 97.1 FM Talk. I appreciate the fact that you all listen. I've talked to a number of you tonight, and I really, it makes a big deal. It's a big deal to us that you showed up out here. So thank you for doing that. And I know Vicky Hartzler is going to enjoy hearing your questions as well here in just a few minutes. Before we get started, couple of housekeeping notes. Number one, be sure to tip your bartender over here because he's doing a great job tonight. We appreciate these folks at 18 North Central. What a great venue, huh? Isn't this nice? Hopefully you're a little bit warmer than you were earlier. We actually had the air conditioning on and didn't realize it, so we've turned that off. And we'll get things heated up here in a few minutes. If you're still cold when it's over with, you can go downstairs and play laser tag. Who's up for a good game tonight? That'll be fun, right? Brad Range, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, that's right. Jake, and Brad, and of course, Tricia Siekman from 97.1. Thank you. Thanks for their help tonight. We're going to be streaming the event live on our Facebook page so that people at home or who couldn't make it out tonight are going to be able to watch. And of course, we'll have it recorded and we'll have everything up there so everyone can watch it. Quick announcement. I mentioned this on the radio today. Our next event is coming up on May 4th, and we're going to have two of the big names from the Heritage Foundation, Jim Carafano and Hans von Spakovsky. They're coming to town. We're gonna announce it tomorrow. You get a little sneak preview here. It's going to be at the Elks Lodge out here in O'Fallon, correct? I almost said St. Peter's, but it's just north of 70. It's not that far from here. We'll be hosting that on the 4th. You'll have to go to our website to get tickets so that we know who you are. We know who's coming. It's a pretty big facility, but it's free. But we need to know who's coming. So we have a good idea of how many tables we're going to need and all that stuff. So you'll hear a lot about it on 97.1 over the next 2 weeks, probably nonstop at every commercial break, but you're getting a little bit of inside information here tonight. So we're excited about that. All right. I got some bad news first, though. Late today, the Biden administration, the CDC, announced that you have to wear masks again on airplanes, and we're going to make you mask up here before we get started. Yeah. Good luck getting that cat back in the bag, right? Who the hell's ever going to agree to put a mask on an airplane again just because Joe Biden wants them to? I don't think that's going to happen. So anyway, before we get started, very quickly, we brought a little bit of 97.1 swag with us tonight. We got some Marc Cox Show T-shirts. I'm going to give them away. And here's what I'm going to do, though. I'm going to make this difficult on you. I dug into my pocket constitution. I'm going to ask you a couple questions. Congresswoman Hartzler, you're not eligible to win because I know you're going to know all these very well. So you're going to have brushed up on the Constitution and your amendments in order to win these. So I've got them written down up here just to make sure I don't screw anything up. So right now, up in Washington, D.C., we got American citizens who are being held in jail for being involved in the activities of January 6th. Which amendment is being ignored that guarantees your right to a speedy trial? Nope. The 6th. Who said the 6th? All right. We have a winner back here in the back. Thank you. Thank you, Tricia. We appreciate that. She's earning her pay tonight. You do get paid, right? I thought so. I know. Don't tell anybody. Thank you. So we all know what Monday was. It was that day we all love, right? Tax day. Which amendment in 1913 approved income taxes to be levied against you? 13. Who said 13 over here? 13th, right here. Okay, I thought I heard it over here first, but 13th. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Very good. We got a winner up front, please. Front table. Thank you, Tricia. In 1951, after FDR nearly socialized the United States, we decided to limit the number of terms for a president. Which amendment guaranteed that? Which amendment limited the terms that a president can serve? I haven't heard it yet. Higher. What'd you say? No? No?
Reread that question.
In 1951, we passed this amendment to make sure that a president couldn't serve more than 2 terms. We've actually hit all around it. 22nd. All right, I got a winner right here sitting. All right, thank you. Thank you. This will be an easy one. We don't have to go as high in the amendments. Which amendment protects you from unreasonable search and seizure? 4th. I heard 4th over here. Right here? All right. Thank you very much. Gentleman in the striped shirt. Appreciate that. And did you bring that bonus shirt tonight? Did you bring the old school bonus shirt?
I've got 2 old school bonus shirts.
All right. 2 old school bonus shirts. So here's what we did. We dug into the vault and we found, before we changed our logo to 97.1 FM Talk, we used to be is it the News Talk?
It's FM News Talk 97.1.
The old logo. We still had some shirts left. They're golf shirts, nice golf shirts that had the old logo. And the radio station won't give them away on the air because they don't match the current logo. So we figured we'd give away a couple tonight. I don't have any idea what size they are. My guess is they're larges or XLs, one of the two. Oh, I got a large and a 2X. So first winner will get to pick among those. Yeah, you can sleep in it maybe. Who knows the year that in its current form, 97.1 went on the radio as talk radio?
2012. 2001.
So if you'll remember when they first went on, like Dave Glover was one of the original hosts, and then they had Smash on in the morning, but nobody's hit it yet. No, you're close though. You've already won. So I can't give you another one. So any other guesses on that? Would have been 22 years ago. 2000. Where'd I hear 2000? Back here in the back. All right, there we go, Tricia. Thank you very much. And okay, well I'll make the other one easy. How about that? So there are 2 other primetime hosts on 97.1, and the other one is also a Mark. What's his last name? Here, right here. I got a winner right here at this table. Blue shirt. Hold your hand up. There we go. All right. Thank you all very much. We appreciate that. We appreciate you coming out. I thought sure you were on track with the 20th anniversary a couple years ago. Thought sure somebody would remember that. But thank you all for being out here tonight. So a big Senate primary. You know, I had the President Trump's son on the radio the other day. I don't know if you heard that or not. And the president has been out making endorsements in other Senate primaries around the country. He just hasn't done that in Missouri yet. So we've got 6 people running right now, and we tried to get each and every one of them to one of these Senate stage events. We have had Mark McCloskey so far. We've had Eric Greitens so far. We've got Billy Long lined up, we hope, in the next month or so, and we'll be announcing that. And honored tonight to have Congresswoman Vicky Hartzler from the 4th Congressional District. Vicky, come on out. There you go. You're on.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Great to be here.
Great to have you.
I've been looking forward to this so much, to get to meet so many great people in this area, so many of your super listeners, and to discuss the challenges we're facing, but also what we need to do to get us back on track.
Well, we appreciate you being here. I think it's important, as I've done these in the past, and of course I've been in media for a long time, I can do a 10-minute radio interview, and I'm sure the Congresswoman's done thousands of those at this point. You get 10 minutes tops, 3 or 4 questions. You're usually hitting the news of the day. You don't always get a chance to find out a lot about the person, and that's why things like this are important. And we're streaming this live on the internet tonight for our station page and for Facebook, so people at home who couldn't get out here tonight have a chance to hear that as well. But I think it's important to understand when somebody wants to be the next senator for the state of Missouri, who they are, where they're from, what they stand for. And this is your opportunity to do that tonight for the folks that are in the 97.1 audience. So what motivated you? You were in a secure congressional seat down there in 4, and this opportunity came up when Roy Blunt decided to step down.
Yeah, it was a sober, serious decision because I do love my district now. I have 24 counties in West Central Missouri. I represent Whiteman Air Force Base, Fort Leonard Wood, Columbia, Missouri, on over great people, great territory. But I love all of Missouri, and the real reason is because we're in crisis as a nation. And I've been there now 12 years in Washington, and this year has been the hardest of all those 12 years. I tell people I feel like I'm a parent who's up in a helicopter who sees their child playing on the railroad tracks and their foot is caught, and you see a train coming and you're incapable of stopping it. I care about the people of this state and to see what this Biden administration is doing to the people that I love and I care about. They have to be stopped. I mean, we have an economic crisis. We have, inflation at a 40-year high. I was at Walmart a couple Saturdays ago getting my groceries like I do every Saturday when I come home. And there was an older lady that I've known for a few years, and she was struggling with her grocery list, and she stopped me in the aisle. She was leaning on her cart, and she almost was in tears. She says, "Vicky, I live on a fixed income. How am I going to be able to buy the things I need?" My heart just broke. And because we have this inflation, because of Biden and the Democrats' runaway spending policies. So that is the first thing that's hurting people. Then we have the energy crisis. We have people who can't fill their gas tanks because we were a net exporter of energy under President Trump. I was there alongside him getting this done. And now the first day of the office, we have a president who won campaigning saying that we have, I'm going to have a war on American energy. We're going to shut down American energy. And he has fulfilled that promise. He shut down the Keystone Pipeline. He shut down new drilling on our federal lands and shut down ANWR, started buying Russian oil that he's sending to Alaskans instead of letting them drill their own right there in Alaska. It is ludicrous. We can turn that around, but also this national security crisis. I'm on the Armed Services Committee. I believe there's only a few things we should be doing in Washington, but providing for the common defense is the most important thing that we need to do. And with this debacle and the way he handled Afghanistan, not only leaving $95 billion of our equipment, wouldn't Ukrainians like that right now? $95 billion of military equipment, abandoning Bagram Air Base, and then leaving Americans behind and the loss of 13 of our soldiers. It is unacceptable. And now we're weak on the world stage. We've emboldened Putin. We've emboldened Xi Jinping of China. Things have got to be turned around. And I believe Missouri needs somebody in the U.S. Senate who on day one is ready to take the helm, who has that experience and track record of fighting for our values, who worked alongside President Trump more than any other candidate over 95% of the time to get our economy going, rebuild our military, secure our borders, protect life, stand strong with Israel, who's ready to take that helm, but also someone who's one of them. I'm a lifelong farmer, grew up on a hog farm, worked alongside my mom and my dad, my sister. We had row crop as well. And then I married the farm boy 3 miles away, which I didn't meet till my senior year in Mizzou. It's another story, but it's kind of fun. But anyway, so we too raise corn, soybeans, wheat. We have a cow-calf operation. Agriculture is Missouri's #1 industry. And I think it's important we have a senator that understands our #1 industry, a small business owner. My husband and I sell farm equipment. So if anybody needs a combine or a tractor later, see me. I'm a teacher who's been fighting for true academics, standing strong against the indoctrination of our kids. I'm a wife and a mom. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here and hope that together you will join with me, join a movement that I want to build of Missourians to take back our country, to secure our state, and to preserve our freedoms.
So a lot of you have submitted questions as we roll along. As I see an opening for some of the questions, I've read through all of them. I'm gonna ask some of the questions from the audience as we go. So let me start with this one because you talked a lot about what's going on up in D.C. right now, primarily because of Vladimir Putin. I understand is why we have inflation, right?
Wrong.
No, wrong. Yeah, exactly. So this is a question from the audience from Sherry. Candidates always say things like, I'm going to stop inflation. I'm going to secure the border. I'm going to stop Biden's administration. I always wonder how.
Yeah.
That's a big question, but how do you do that
Yeah.
just with one of our 2 Senate seats as a senator?
No, I appreciate the question, because as I go out, that's what I've been talking about. Here's the plan. I mean, not just decrying the darkness, but talking about what's the plan. So securing the border, that's not that hard. We did it before under President Trump, and I was there alongside him to do it. But you secure the border. I was there 2 years ago in Nogales, which is south of Tucson, Arizona. There is a wall that goes through that town. There's a Mexican side, American side. But I came back with 2 pieces of legislation. One I passed. While I was there, the Border Patrol agent said that they're not able to take down drones. They talked about how the drug cartels were using drones to bring drugs across. And that really bothered me, because I worked with at-risk teens for many years. I really have a heart for and want to see nobody have addiction. And I work with the ministries and the agencies in my district that help those. And anyway, so I'm like, this is crazy. And they said, well, we just can't take out those drones. We see them, we can't take them out. And I said, hey, I'm from Missouri. I could go home and get a few volunteers. We could be here next week for you, and we'll take them out if you want. We call it target practice back home. Anyway, they said, oh, no, we don't mean we can't take them out. We mean that because our laws are so antiquated, one section of federal law says that drones are like airplanes, and there's laws against taking out airplanes. And they said another section of federal law, drones are considered computers. And that's one method to interdict drones, is you take their signal over and then you bring it over, but it's against the law to hack into computers. So our hands are tied. We just can't take out the drones. And I'm like, this is crazy. So I went back, introduced legislation, passed it, worked with Mike McConnell and the FAA Reauthorization Act. We got that in there. And now they have the authority to take out the drones. So I still think our method would have been more fun. But anyway, that's another story.
Yeah.
But you build the wall, you keep people in Mexico, remain in Mexico policy that Trump and state that work. That way there's an orderly process to look at and adjudicate those who are seeking asylum. You just don't let everybody come across, and you work with the sending nations to help them stay there. So we just go back to that. That's the plan. You just go back to that. I was there 2 months ago, and it was heartbreaking to see our wall that we paid for sitting there rusting, all these steel posts. So build the wall, keep them in Mexico, work with it. Not hard, and take out the drones. But inflation, quit spending money we don't have. Quit spending money we don't have. The Democrats and Biden pushed through a $1.9 trillion rescue plan. They call it the rescue plan. The audacity of that. This is a destructive plan, is what they passed. There was still $1 trillion that hadn't been spent from the year before.
Yeah.
But anyway, that has fueled that, as also the supply chain crisis. We need to get people working again, and that includes quit paying them to stay home, which we phased out most of this program, but we need to get people working again. We need to embrace the work ethic. There's nothing wrong with work. I used to grow up on the farm. I'd clean hog barns. It's a stinky job, but at the end of the day, you feel proud of yourself. Look what I've accomplished. We need to embrace the work ethic again and quit spending money. So there's the plan.
Well, good. And some specifics. I appreciate that. Honestly, though, in this election cycle, isn't the best we can hope for gridlock? We take back the House. We take back control of the Senate. We can at least stop the bleeding. But Joe Biden's never going to agree to put that border wall up again, right?
Yeah, no, that's true, that we've got to have realistic expectations. But I think you're right. Stop the bleeding. First, stop it. Stop the madness. Stop the hurting. But we can do some things through the budgeting process. We can tie their hands to how some of the agencies spend money. Say, you cannot spend it on this. And you can try to force some things through some legislation that you can pass, but also have oversight hearings, which I'm looking forward to bringing Hunter Biden in and saying, what's going on, buddy?
Where's Hunter? I got a T-shirt I'll send you. It says, where's Hunter?
Yeah, you can give those out, the next one of these.
Yeah,
And they're a hot item. Everybody's going to want one of those.
That's great. Yeah, we're looking forward to that. I mean, I hope. So I picked another question out of here that seems to kind of fit here. If you get elected to the United States Senate, what is your assessment of Mitch McConnell's performance since you've been in Congress, and would you support him as majority leader again if elected to the Senate?
Well, I'm not going to say what or who I'm going to support right now. But I am going to support the most conservative leader that I can, because we are in crisis. Back to point one, we need somebody who's going to stand up to Biden and do that. But I have disagreed with several things over the years. But I will say I appreciated the 300 judges that they did push through, and under Trump, that are there now, and that's been a very bright light. And I think a lot of the things we've been able to do to stop Biden is going to have to go to the courts, and we are winning now in the courts because we have some of those judges there. So I'm glad that he helped do that. I appreciate that.
President Trump has I'd call it a love-hate relationship with him. It's probably in the hate category right now.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, have you had any of those conversations with the former president?
Not about McConnell.
No. About an endorsement?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So Trump knows me very well. You know, I am the candidate voted with him more than anybody else running 95% of the time. And so I was right there alongside him and helped pass the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. They got our economy going in. I supported the rebuilding the border and the energy independence and the pro-life. I'm chairman of the House Values Action Team. So I lead over 100 members of Congress right now in efforts to protect life and our basic family values and religious freedom. I'm leading an amicus brief right now, which I'm excited about the next week or two. Hopefully we can have an event with Coach Joe Kennedy. I don't know if you remember him, but he was the football coach from Washington State that for 7 years after the football game would just go to the 50-yard line after the game. He wasn't forcing his players to do it or anything. Just he would kneel down and pray. He'd give a private prayer. And his school district demanded that he quit doing that. And to his credit, he said, I have First Amendment rights too. This is my private prayer. I can do that. Anyway, they fired him. But he didn't give up. And that case that's been challenged is going all the way to the Supreme Court. So I'm leading the amicus brief. We've got over 54 members, both the House and the Senate, who've signed on with me, saying to our Supreme Court, stand with him, stand with our First Amendment rights. And so, you know, I'm proud to do that. And we're hoping to have a press event with him because his case is going to be heard in a week or two there in Washington, D.C. But we've got to stand strong for those basic values.
Good. Thank you very much. So just a quick reminder for people following us at home. It's our Senate stage event with Congresswoman Vicky Hartzler. Our thanks to our sponsor for tonight, which is Strait Realty. I didn't say that earlier. I want to be sure I thank them because that allows us to come out and do things like this, which is fantastic. So let me switch gears for a second. I mentioned this during my trivia earlier, and that's the incident surrounding January 6th. We had the 1 year anniversary of it, I guess you'd say. We got the J6 committee, which continues to persecute people, particularly Republicans and people in the Trump administration. What's been your take on what happened there that day? I was there. I was there as a representative of this radio station covering the event. I was on the Capitol grounds from, 50, 60 yards from the building. That obviously didn't go in. But what's your take on what happened there?
It was bad. I was inside in the House chamber, and we didn't know what was going on. So obviously, very disturbing thing that happened in a dark time. But I support people's right to peacefully weigh in on their rights. And what I'm focusing on now is these individuals who are still in prison. If somebody committed a crime, our system and our Constitution is you deserve a speedy trial. You should be charged and given bond and then have a speedy trial. And we keep hearing stories of individuals still there. Sometimes you hear stories they're in solitary confinement. Other times you hear that they haven't been charged yet. And that is wrong. If that is the case, that is wrong. And so I have sent a letter a month or two ago, several months now, actually, to our Attorney General, Merrick Garland, demanding answers to who is still there. Have they been charged? What's the status of them? Because you can't necessarily believe everything on the internet, too. I don't want to assume. So I'm trying to get the accurate answers of what's going on. As you might guess, Attorney General has not responded. So what I'm doing now is reaching out to some of the lawyers of some of the defendants, the individuals, and we're going to have a Zoom call with them. I want to get their perspective on it and try to get their take. So, I didn't support everything that happened there. It was not good for our nation, but people have rights, and they need to make sure that they're not being having their rights denied by an over heavy-handed administration, and that's concerning to me. So
let's talk about let's separate the idiots who chose to break into the Capitol building, because I never understood that. I talked to Congressman Jason Smith that morning. I saw him out by the Ellipse earlier in the day, and he was one of the Congress people who was going to stand up and challenge an electoral slate, I believe from Pennsylvania. And then Senator Hawley was going to make that same challenge from the Senate side. If you were a senator from the state of Missouri, would you have been willing to make one of those challenges?
Yes, because I had looked at the situation. I'm a teacher by heart. I read bills, I read things, I studied. And so I looked at what Pennsylvania did and what Arizona did. And I am convinced that the state officials there did not follow state law. On their own, they arbitrarily changed the law. And that's not right. And so I didn't have confidence to be able to certify the results from there because the law was violated, in my opinion. So I was glad. I'd already decided I was not going to vote to certify from those states, but we have to have a senator who is willing to make that as well. And so I was very pleased that Josh, when he announced he was going to, I talked to him about it. I thanked him for doing that. And I stood, beside him in that effort, and I voted to not certify.
Good. I hear a lot from my callers who call in and people who write to us on social media. What the people want, in my opinion, in that other senator's role is somebody that doesn't just go along to get along. Too often in Washington, I see people who are too worried about, this faction or that faction or what they're going to say if I make this decision. We've got people that Republicans and Democrats who, and I apologize if there are any sailors in the room, who spin like drunken sailors and don't worry about the long-term consequences of it. And I'm hoping we're going to send a senator up there who's willing, like I believe Senator Hawley's done, to stand up and say no. I mean, we need more people like Josh Hawley up there. You agree?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's what I want people to know about me, is that I have that track record already of being a fighter who's not afraid to stand up and do those things. So a few years ago, the last days of the Obama administration, the then Secretary of Defense, Ash Carter, on the way out said, we're going to allow and change for the military that open transgenders can serve, and that includes gender transition surgeries. We're going to pay for it. So when Trump won, I'm on a senior member of the Armed Services Committee. I went to the chairman. I said, we've got to stop this. This is ludicrous. Just a little Just a little background. I've had two constituents who were denied the ability to go into the military. One of them because they had asthma as a child. And the other one is because she had allegedly bunions on her feet, even though she ran 5Ks and stuff. They wouldn't let her in the military. And the argument, I actually talked to the Navy surgeon and the person in charge that denied her the ability to be in the military. He said, that may require surgery down the road, so we're not going to let her in. And yet they're recruiting individuals to come in who basically can't be deployed. Think about it. A 4-year tour of service. How many of you served in the military here? Can we give them a round of applause?
Thank you all.
So if you sign up for a 4-year tour of duty, before you can have gender transition surgery, it takes about 18 months. It's hormone treatments. And a lot of those hormone treatments preclude you from being deployed. And then if you have a sex change operation, it takes about 280 some days to recover from that. That's major surgery. And then afterwards, you're on hormones for life. And some of those hormones have to be refrigerated, so you couldn't be deployed to like an Afghanistan mountain or whatever. So it precludes you. Why would we pay for and recruit individuals into our military who can't be deployed? It's ridiculous. So despite opposition on the House floor, when the National Defense Authorization Act was came, I offered the amendment saying no Department of Defense dollars can be used for sex change operations. I took a lot of hits for it, but it was the right thing to do. Sadly, we lost by 5 votes, and we had 9 Republicans who voted against me. You'll be glad 7 of them are not there anymore.
Good.
So anyway, and that's why I am not afraid to speak up for what's right. And as a former track coach for 6 years, and you may have seen my ads, that's why I'm saying women's sports should be for women, not men pretending to be women.
Could you put out a tweet on that tonight?
No, you know what?
Why?
Well, Twitter suspended my account.
I heard that.
Yeah, they said I violated their hateful conduct rule. And if I would take down that ad and take down that comment, then a 12-hour clock would start counting down. And at the end of 12 hours, I could have my account back. And you know what I told them? They can keep their account. I don't want it.
Good. You have a daughter, right?
I have a daughter, yes.
You have a daughter. I have 2 daughters. And I am outraged. I used to be the president of a local swim club. In fact, I talked to somebody up here about that earlier. We found out this week that a local municipal swim group in St. Louis County is trying to adopt USA swimming rules regarding transgender athletes to the point that in Chesterfield and Baldwin and Fenton and Webster Groves and a few of these other local municipalities. And I just happen to know about that because they accidentally sent out an email with the proposal in it, or we might not have ever known about it. And it would open this swim league up to people up to the age of 18 being able to go in the locker room of their choice. So, an 18-year-old man who identified as a woman could be in a locker room changing next to a 7-year-old girl who's in there on the swim team. Now, each municipality has to approve it. Because we've shown the light on it, I doubt very seriously that's going to happen. But it's coming. It's not just Leah Thomas up in Pennsylvania. It's all over.
So just on that point, the Biden administration is sending out a proposed rule changing Title IX. Now, Title IX, of course, was passed in 1972 by Congress to give females equal opportunity in education. That includes academics, scholarships, but also women's sports. And that's what gives women the right to have equal and separate sporting opportunities. The Biden administration is sending out a proposed rule to anybody that gets Title IX saying that they are redefining sex to include sexual orientation and gender identity, more or less codifying across the country any institution that gets federal education Title IX dollars to have to allow males in the locker rooms, have to allow them on sports through that. So I'm leading a letter in the House to them, objecting that, demanding that they stop that rule.
Good for you. I'm not checking my text messages. I want to get back to.
Do you still have Twitter account?
I do have a Twitter account.
Okay,
I do.
right. Hope you can hang on.
I want to get back to these headlines. So I just to see what would happen. I Googled Vicky Hartzler earlier, right? I'm just going to read some of these headlines to you, and this is what we have to battle these days. All of us, particularly candidates who stand up for what's right. Here's the Kansas City Star. Missouri Senate candidate launches transphobic campaign ad against swimmer. Missouri Senate candidate Senate ad slams transgender athletes pretending to be women. That's in quotation marks. Every single one of them, the Post-Dispatch is in here, I'm sure, the Washington Times, the Independent GOP Senate candidate ad hits out at transgender athletes. They make you out to be some sort of a monster for protecting girls.
I'm standing with the American public. The American public is with us. They're the ones that are out of touch. And this athlete that, yes, I talk about him, he interjected himself into girls' sports. He's the one that swam for 3 years on the men's team at the University of Pennsylvania, then had this epiphany during COVID and says, I am really a woman, and demanded to be on the women's team. So he's the one that did it. And in a Sports Illustrated article, he said, I don't really care about the medals and winning. I just love to swim. And I say to him, then go down to the Y and swim. You don't have to be on the women's team. So anyway.
Well, here's what I worry about, and I don't know as a senator or even as a member of Congress what we can do about it with this White House in charge. But USA Swimming is recommending these guidelines, and there's nothing to stop local swim clubs or others from adopting it. And they're going to have the full backing of the Biden administration's Department of Justice.
You know,
It's a helpless feeling there.
it's time for parents to take our country back.
Yes.
And who controls the local swim clubs? You know,
Parents should.
The parents should. Anybody that's got a little girl that's going to say, we're going to go down the swim club down the road that only protects girls' sports, whatever, and see, you know, I mean, that's why we got to take back our schools, the school boards. Parents have to speak again, run for office. You know, I wrote a book several years ago called Running God's Way, Step-by-Step to Successful Political Campaign. That's what I did in between. I was a state rep for 6 years and became a mom, went back home, be a full-time mom, and work with my husband on our farm and our business and stuff. But I wrote this book, which, by the way, I thought would take a year. It took 7 years. Never going to write another book. But anyway, labor of love. But my point is we have too much been on the defensive, I think, in our side. When I researched this bill, the liberals have got it. They have been raising a farm team. They've been recruiting people to run for school board, city council, all that stuff for too long. And it's time for us to go on the offensive to recruit and ask good people that we know to take back our school boards, our city councils, and our county offices, and all the way up. So, yeah. Let's get involved. Make our voices heard.
We don't
have to lay back and let it happen.
And we did in the last school board elections, didn't we? We made a difference. We made a difference. We didn't make a difference in every district, but we had an impact. And I'm not taking credit for that. The parents rose up. The Francis Howe families, Fort Zumwalt, others rose up. And Rockwood, of course, made a huge difference. But here's the thing. It's an uphill battle, right? Because just like Congresswoman Hartzler said a minute ago, and I'm going to talk about this on the show tomorrow, some documents came to my attention that I'm going to talk about tomorrow. The Rockwood School Board, district, I should say, superintendent, they just paid somebody $25,000 like Dr. LeGarrette King and Francis Howe to come in and teach teachers how to teach diversity and equity and inclusion and judging people by the color of their skin. These school administrators are doing this. They get the support of NEA-backed candidates on the school board that rubber stamp anything they want. I think we're going to, at some point, need some federal legislation. Hopefully, we take back the House and the Senate. We get the White House back in 2024. We've got to do something to stop these out-of-control educators who do whatever they want, and they don't care what the parents think.
You know, I believe most education should be local, though. So I think that's a state law idea. You know, when my bachelor's and master's degrees in education, when I got to Washington, D.C., they said, all right, you want what committees do you want to be on? I assume you want to be on education committee since that's your degree. And I said, no, I don't, because I don't believe there should be hardly any federal role for education. I want to be on armed services committee. I want to be on agriculture committee. So just like I don't want the federal government, Pelosi and Schumer and Biden to pass a law saying every school has to teach CRT. I don't, I think it's better at the state level and the local level. We do those things, but I agree. We've got to get involved. When I was a state rep, I was on the state education committee. So there's a lot we can do here in Missouri to protect our schools. But can I say something about my bill? I did introduce a bill called No CRT for Our Military Kids Act, because the Department of Defense oversees schools on 160 military bases. So Congress does have oversight, a federal role in those schools. So it makes sense, I think, for us to interject there. So that's why I do not want any kid to be taught critical race theory. But certainly the idea of a child, of a soldier, sailor, airman, or Marine who's out there potentially giving their life for our country, for them to be taught that they should be ashamed of the country that they represent and they grew up in, and that their destiny is determined by their skin color, is just criminal. It cannot happen. And so that's why I'm introducing that legislation there. So
That's good. Well, since the Department of Education has never educated anyone, we need some people up there with common sense in DC. Let's talk about the pandemic for a minute. I mentioned earlier that if you missed this, I heard about it on my way out here. The CDC is going to recommend the Department of Justice appeal that judge's ruling the other day on masking in public transit, which means this is going to get, some temporary restraining order filed until it can go to another court. That's going to happen. They're not going to be able to get that cat back in the bag. Who's going to go on an airline? I mean, everybody's already canceled it.
I had not heard that till a few minutes ago. So that was very sad news.
It is sad, yes.
I sent a letter to the CDC back in April asking them to not renew that and for them to shut this down and let us be done with this. And yet they extended it to May. And so I was so excited early this week when the judge put that injunction on. I'm like, yay. Did you see the videos of people when they announced it? Everybody's like, yay, throwing off the mask and going back to DC next week. I was like, yes, I can burn the mask. I was so this is hopefully it'll land in one of those Trump judges and they won't give them the restraining order and we can, keep this rule. This is ridiculous. So here's how wrong this Biden administration is. They are doubling down that on an airplane, you and I have to wear this because there's still COVID, right? But then they're proposing to do away with Title 42 at the border because there's not a COVID crisis. So we can let 18,000 people a day come across our border. So which is it? Is there a COVID crisis or not? So I absolutely oppose this. Let people make their own decision. No government should be forcing us to wear a mask, to take a vaccine, or tell us where we can go to church or not, or which businesses. They get out of our lives.
Thank you. And doesn't that in your mind speak to the fact that for a lot of these progressive politicians, this is all about power. It's all about control. The Pritzkers, the Sam Pages over here, they can't stand the fact that legislators in Jeff City passed a law last year that said you can't just do what you want to do anymore. You're at least going to have your council approve it at some point if you're going to make an order like that. It's kept kids out of school. I know in St. Charles County, thousands of hours were lost to kids who couldn't go to school because of the quarantine orders imposed by the health department out here. And we're finally stopping that. But it does speak to the fact, and I think everybody in this room probably agrees, we all want less government. We all want less government intrusion in our lives. You walk out every day, you know what the risk is. You look both ways before you cross the street, right? Yeah. Some of it, common sense has to take over at some point.
It's called individual liberty. And that's what the founders of our country, that's what they fought for, and they died for, the ability of us to make our own determination, to make our own decisions. And that it has just been shocking how quickly people just acquiesced across this nation. But I think no more. I mean, I think people are done with that. I don't think you're going to see that again. People are saying, no, I need to make my own decisions regarding my own personal health.
Let me get back to some of these questions here that were submitted by the audience, and thank you for doing that. Here's a question about Senator Blunt. How will you be different than Roy Blunt?
Well, first of all, I am a woman. I just wanted to let you know that because
big difference.
Oh no, I was just kidding. Because anyway, so I vote more conservative than he does, and several things. I didn't support the $multi-trillion infrastructure package. I didn't feel like we had 9 or 10% actually going to roads and bridges. So we don't always vote alike. Where I do think we have some similarities is in our constituent services. Roy, really, he goes out to the communities, he travels around the state. How can we be helpful? It may be something's needed, the community needs a new sewer system. It may be a bridge, like he and I worked together to try to get, and we got one of the largest grants that Missouri had ever gotten to replace the bridge, the Rocheport Bridge on I-70, just near Columbia, that connects St. Louis, Kansas City. I mean, there's thousands of cars going across there a day. So I look forward. I travel all the time. I'm out in the district, so I come home every weekend. So I want to continue to provide that personal touch and be there to help people. How can I be helpful? But I'm going to be voting more like Josh.
Okay, I was going to say I got a couple of questions along that line, and the other one was, do you think you'll be a more conservative voter than Senator Blunt?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. Let me move into the campaign here for a minute. I got several questions on your ads so far and how you're taking on, specifically, you've taken on Senator Greitens, or former Governor Greitens, I should say, and Eric Schmidt, the Attorney General so far. So here's one of the questions we got tonight. Senate candidate Eric Greitens' wife has alleged he was abusive to her in court documents filed in divorce proceedings. You, Eric Schmidt, Mark McCloskey, and Senator Hawley all stated he should withdraw from the Senate race. Aren't your comments, along with other candidates, just political theater, since these are only allegations? What happened to innocent until proven guilty?
Yeah, well, and you may disagree, but I think personally he's unfit to serve in office, and it's because of it's a track record. He admitted to what he did with the affair with the hairdresser. In fact, he has admitted to it. He just said it was consensual, but on and on. And I just think this is a pattern of behavior that's not acceptable for a senator. But also, as I said, it goes back to point one. I believe we're in crisis, and we need somebody on day one who can take the helm, who can be able, with morals, who doesn't have baggage or these other issues that could come up. We need to be focused 100% on saving our country and not on these other issues.
When the initial allegations came down and there were a lot of Republicans calling for Eric Greitens to resign as governor, were you among those? Did you call for him to resign?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I don't remember. I have to go back and look, but I certainly thought it was appropriate. I don't know if I made a public statement or not, but it was just reprehensible. He embarrassed our state. He let our state down. People who are innocent don't quit, too. President Trump did not quit. Brett Kavanaugh did not quit. Remember, he quit on us. And now he's coming back and says, hey, I deserve this. He does not deserve Missouri. That's just my thought.
So let me turn to Eric Schmidt then. The ad that you released most recently refers to the failed China hub that we tried to get brought in reference to Eric Schmidt at the time.
That wasn't my
You said
ad.
when he was in the state Senate.
That's not my ad. Yeah, I haven't done anything on.
Oh, I thought you had. I thought I read that you had criticized him for the China ad. China hub.
Yeah.
Okay. Well.
But I don't support the China hub as far as that goes. But it's not my ad.
Do you think the Attorney General is going to be weak on China?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I have been sanctioned by China because I've been so focused on, they are our largest existential threat as a nation. I was shocked when I got there and started going to classified briefings on Armed Services Committee. I had not realized how not only have they caught up with us in some of our military capabilities, they have exceeded us in several areas. They have a plan for world domination. It sounds like some B-roll movie or James Bond or something, but they're very open about it. And so I produced on my official website, please go to hartzler.house.gov and watch the 4-part video series on the threats from China. The first one is the military threats, where you can see the amount of military equipment they have versus us now, as well as in 10 years, what the projections are. The second video is on the economic threats, goes over the Belt and Road Initiative and the debt trap diplomacy and how they're strategically securing ports and natural resources around the world that can be used against us, and they take territory. The third one is the malign influences, how they're using our universities against us. And the fourth one is the human rights abuses with the Uyghur Muslims and the Christians. And I was appointed 2 years ago to the Congressional Executive Commission on China, and we produce an annual report exposing the human rights abuses of them. And it's because of that, because of my outspokenness of what they're doing with the Christians, as well as the Uyghur Muslims, almost 2 million in concentration camps, that they sanctioned me and the whole commission. So I'm not going to be quiet about that either. We need to know the threats facing us from China. And here, Eric Schmidt, when he was a state senator, was trying to work to pass a bill over $400 million of Missouri tax credits to incentivize companies to build here, and so that China, the Communist Party, the Chinese Communist Party, could come here and sell their stuff here in St. Louis, and to incentivize all of that. And it's just, We don't need that. We need American-made stuff again, and to reduce our dependence on China.
Look at the supply chain problems we have right now, right?
Absolutely. You know, before COVID, I introduced legislation with John Garamendi, who's a Democrat, and I do work across the aisle when it makes sense. He's on Armed Services Committee as well, but our legislation would have brought pharmaceutical production back to the United States. And the reason we were focused on that is from the military standpoint. We found out all of the medicines, the vaccines, the aspirins that are given to our men and women in uniform come from China, or the active pharmaceutical ingredients come from China going through India or some other country. And we realized, oh my goodness, if we were in a conflict with China, they could win without firing a shot, just sending over some inert ingredients and doing a chemical biological attack or some tainted, you know, it's just, so we were already calling for that. We were getting a lot of support for our bill. Then COVID hit, and we discovered as Americans, it's not just the military is vulnerable, obviously it's all of us and the PPE and everything else. But President Trump took part of my bill and used it through an executive order. He took our part that called to use the Defense Production Act to incentivize and help American companies start making medicine here again. And so part of that was done. And yeah, but we need to make our semiconductors here. We need to mine more here. Farmers are having a hard time with the fertilizer. We need to mine potash. We need to mine phosphorus back in the United States. We have deposits. We need to get EPA out of the way. I've been down to Jefferson County. We got Herculaneum. You know, we have more lead production in America, but you know, right now they shut down that refinery. So we mine the lead here. We ship it to China. They process it. And then they send it back here, then it goes into our lead batteries. How ludicrous is that? So we need to be making things right here.
Yes, completely. You know, I think for a lot of us who have always been free market people, there were people who were critical when President Trump, for example, I specifically remember covering the story, decided that we needed to save certain parts of our American steel industry because there was only one plant left in America that still made the kind of steel you'd need if you had to suddenly manufacture tanks and warships again. And some people in this country were willing to let that shut down because of steel tariffs. Where would you stand on an issue like that?
No, I'm in complete alignment with Trump, once again, because I see the threat. It'll be China, and now I think everybody sees the threat with Putin. Oh my goodness. I mean, there are bad people out there, evil people. And the more dependent that we are on foreign countries, then the more vulnerable that we are. And so peace through strength, have a strong military, but that also includes the ability to produce our own steel, these critical things. We can't make everything here. We want to work with our allies and when it makes sense. But some of these critical things, steel, pharmaceutical production, semiconductors. I mean, there's just certain things it should be a wake-up call, and we need to be focusing on making sure that we can make those things right here.
Yeah, that's a good point. We are still flag-waving patriots, even though the screen turned off behind us a minute ago. I'm sure that's a technical difficulty we'll get straightened out in just a couple of minutes. Yeah, I talked to a veteran in the audience earlier here, and I were discussing, I know you're on armed services. He's concerned because he doesn't think the American backbone is what it was when he served. That we've let Vladimir Putin get away with too much, that we're far too concerned about what his reaction might be to us standing up for American values. And I believe all of that. I'm not sure I'm ready to say I want to see American troops involved in this war in the Ukraine. Where do you stand on that? And what have the conversations been in armed services? And where would you stand on that as a senator?
So as an Armed Services Committee, we're looking at what does Ukraine need? What could we get there as soon as possible? There was a disparate of opinion between Biden administration and myself and some other Republicans. I was advocating last fall that we send them this military equipment that Ukraine needs last fall. And I was advocating when Putin put over 150,000 troops on the Ukrainian border and lined up his tanks That is when we put sanctions on Russia, not after they've invaded. Crazy how Biden said, we're going to wait, and if they go in, then we're going to put those sanctions on them, and they're just going to leave, turn around those tanks and leave. I mean, we should have said, if I had been president or whatever, if Trump had been there, I'm sure would have said, look, we're slapping these sanctions on you, and when you move your 100,000 troops, send them back home, then we're going to remove them. But, take charge instead of just letting Putin do and then trying to, put the toothpaste back in the tube. And that's kind of what they're doing. But that having been said, we are where we are now. So my position has been to get them as much equipment as they need. They need missile defense systems, the S-300 missile defense system take out. Of course, they need javelins. They need Stingers. This latest tranche that the president announced last week has some good stuff in it. It has helicopters for the first time. It has armored personnel carriers in it. It's actually got body armor in it and helmets, some things they've been crying for a long time. So we're starting to trickle in and get this to them. But why didn't we do that at the beginning? Why do you wait till you have tens of thousands of people dead and cities decimated? But it's been difficult. I don't know about you. I know I've had sleepless nights. It just almost makes me want to cry. I was there 2 years ago as a member of the Armed Services Committee. I've been to that training base on the western side of the country that just got bombed a couple of weeks ago, seeing the great work that not only the United States, but other countries were doing there, training their forces. And I have to say, aren't we proud of how the Ukrainians are protecting their country? They have listened and utilized that training that we have given them, and they've got a heart for freedom that nobody can snuff out. I've been to Kiev. And when I met there with about 25 of their parliamentarians, it wasn't what I expected. And I wanted to share that with you. Most of them were in their 20s and 30s, and they were entrepreneurs. They were business owners. They were college educated. Most of them spoke English. And they said, we view ourselves as being the George Washingtons, the Patrick Henrys, the Thomas Jeffersons of your day. We are the founding fathers of a new Ukraine. We are throwing off the authoritarianism of the past. We're embracing freedom and democracy for ourselves and our kids. We want to be aligned with the West. It was so inspiring, and it has been heartbreaking to think what has happened to them right now and what they're doing. But we've got to stand with them. We've got to help them and do everything to take Putin down.
Good. Yeah, a lot of people are torn on it. I wish they'd done more in the preceding 5 or 6 years since the Obama administration. They didn't do any of this under Donald Trump because they knew they wouldn't get away with it, right? Yeah. I wish the Ukrainians had done more to build up their own defenses. I did hear a great report the other day, though, that part of the reason they've had such good luck fighting the Russian army is that training you were talking about with the U.S. Army. That's what led them to those successes early on.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what about NATO? I'd love to get your thoughts on this. We watched President Trump go over there, and all the headlines in the media was, oh, he's going to pull us out of NATO. This is just a disaster. It's the art of the deal. What did he do? He went over and said, if you don't contribute your fair share, so to speak, borrowing an Obama term there, if you don't contribute your fair share to NATO's defense, why should we keep funding it? And lo and behold, several $1 billion rolled in suddenly, right? No. We were subsidizing their ability to have European socialist democracies is what we were doing. They couldn't get away with that stuff before. Is this going to wake them up, do you hope?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Germany all of a sudden had an epiphany, and they agreed we're going to get to our 2% GDP requirement. It's just amazing. And so it's sad they didn't get there sooner, but Trump started it. Absolutely. He went over there and said, hey, guys, you got to do your part. You're closer to Russia than we are. You can't rely on us. I mean, you need to do your part. And so they started stepping up, and now they're accelerating that. But yeah, I support NATO, and it's very concerning. Hopefully, Putin won't try to go into Poland or Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Romania, any of these countries. But if so, Article 5 of NATO is going to be triggered, and we're going to be in an even bigger conflict. Yeah, well, that's true. I want to get you a couple more questions before we run out of time here, because we promised the Congresswoman we'd hold this to an hour tonight, and I'm going to stick to that. So let me read a couple of these real quick. Somebody submitted this question.
Why did you vote against the Lower Insulin Act? I'm not familiar with that act. Is that the one designed to lower the price of insulin?
Yes, I'm trying to think. It was, so I believe it was like down to $10 of a dose. I was supporting of a one that was more like $30 or $50 a dose. That was the president. Basically, it was too expensive. And so I thought there was a more reasonable way to cap the price, but not quite go that low. So that's the bottom line. It was so.
Yeah, my take on that has always been these foreign countries put a cap on what the R&D that's spent in America to produce these drugs. They put a cap on what they can charge for them overseas. And all the liberal progressives think we should put that cap on it in America. These are capitalist companies. They exist to make a profit. As long as that profit's not obscene, I wonder how we get away with forcing them to do things like that. I don't know.
Somebody's got to pay.
Somebody's got to pay for the R&D, and foreign countries are getting away with taking advantage of that.
Yeah, and Trump tried to crack down on that and said, foreign countries, you've got to pay your fair share too. And
right.
I think you're right. We got to keep going after that.
I agree with that. So I try to avoid this issue as much as I could today, since it is 4/20. And everybody wants to joke about the fact that it's some sort of marijuana holiday, but you did get a question about it tonight. On this day of 4/20/22, are you in favor of making weed legal federally?
No. You want to go why?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, yeah. So I did work with teenagers for many years. I love them. And the last 6 years, I was also a co-director of at-risk program for teens. Every teenager that I've met that's got involved in drugs, they start off with marijuana. I truly believe it is a gateway drug. And the THC levels in today's marijuana are a lot different than back in the 60s and 70s. I mean, it's a lot more potent. The states that have legalized it, you can see the record, the increased traffic fatalities, the number of children that go to the emergency room from eating the gummies and the other products that made from it and things. And it's just overall, I feel like detrimental. And it does physiologically change you. That's why it's a drug.
Right. No, I'm with you on all of that. I do wonder, though, with all of these states legalizing it, both medically and recreationally, there's still that conflict with banking and a lot of other issues like that. Is there a way to address that without making weed legal federally?
Yeah, there is legislation that would allow banks to use, to be exempted from the Control 1 drug and to do business with the medical marijuana people. Because right now they can't, and so it is problematic. I just can't go there yet to allow that. So I'm sorry, I just don't.
I took a lot of grief for that same stance this morning on the radio. People told me I'm out of touch. I don't know. That's just kind of what I believe. So we appreciate Congresswoman Hartzler coming out tonight, and thanks to all of you. I want to give her one more opportunity to make her pitch on why you should be the next senator for the Republicans here in Missouri.
First of all, I want to thank you, Mark, for this opportunity. I've been looking forward to it because I don't know as many people on the east side of the state here in St. Louis, and I would be so honored to represent you. I love this area. I love everyone I've gotten to meet. So privileged. I believe our values that we have here in Missouri, our common sense ideas, our core conservative solutions is what the rest of our country needs. I am a lifelong Missourian. Like I said, I am, I think I'm representative. Many of you have those same values: a farmer, a teacher, a wife, a mom. My dad was in the Army Reserves and a small business owner. But I am the fighter that I believe we need in Washington right now, who on day one is ready to take the helm and to stop this train wreck, to stand strong for our values, because I've been doing it. I've taken the hits. It's not just something I've done at the state level, which is fine, but I've been there in Washington in the trenches. And so I think I have that track record of conservative leadership that our state needs, that we can benefit from. But most of all, I care about people. I'm not doing this for myself or to get on TV. I'm doing it because I care about you. And I firmly believe that what we believe here is what the rest of the nation needs. The East and the West Coast do not think like us. They do not have the same values, and they're controlling our country right now. And I believe you and I, if we join together, we will be able to stop them. And I ask for your consideration, your prayers, your support, and your vote, and to join this movement of Missourians that is rising up, that I believe is going to keep our state in strong Republican hands, but is also going to kick out Chuck Schumer, and is going to be a bulwark against the Biden socialism train that is hurting us. So thank you for the opportunity to visit with you. Thanks for coming out. Thanks for listening. And we'll look forward to visiting again soon. Thanks so much.
Good. Congresswoman Vicky Hartzler, thank you. Before you all take off, just a quick reminder, our thanks to the folks at Strait Realty for sponsoring this tonight. We're going to continue to have more of these as we get the candidates lined up. And our big heritage event is on May 4th. It's going to be at the Elks Lodge out here in St. Peter's or O'Fallon, just up the street. We'll have all the details tomorrow. We're going to be giving away some VIP opportunities. So you get backstage with Hans and JJ Carafano and all those guys from Heritage that you hear on the radio all so much. So have a safe trip home. Thank you for coming out. We'll see you next time. Thank you very much. Well done.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm going to have Tricia get a picture of us, if you don't mind, before they take off. I'm sure a lot of people want to talk to you as well. Hang on. Hey, Tricia, want to get a photo? Okay.